Hi everybody, welcome to Eating Peace this week. It's Grace. So here I am in my kitchen. As always, it seems to be the place that is the most perfect for these Eating Peace videos. And I love that it's right here in the kitchen, in the heart of where many of us go to seek that thing that we long for so much, which seems to be food, even though it also isn't food. You're not really truly satisfied. Well, what I wanted to talk about this week is some of what we worked on this morning in the Eating Peace online group, which is a sense of being totally disgusted and ashamed with yourself. Where did we learn that? How does that come forward? What's going on when we feel this disgust and discomfort? I used to feel like if somebody was a fly on the wall, right? If there was a movie going on of me eating, especially during a binge, I would be so mortified. I don't know, there almost aren't words for it. You know, if people could see that being acted out, the stuffing in of food. And I'm sure most people feel like that. A lot of eating that's done when it's out of order, disordered, or off balance, when you're not hungry, is done only all alone. No one else can see you doing it. It's like you've got a secret. And even if it starts or begins with other people around, maybe you're at a large gathering or a potluck or something where people are sharing food together, the inner fear and anxiety appears around food and eating. And then maybe, as I would experience sometimes, you begin a process of binging or kind of going for it, or something snaps over the edge of I'm not going to try to control myself, and you are actually eating. You're eating in this secretive way within, even if nobody could see what you're doing on the outside. You know that you aren't happy with the food you're eating, and that you're moving into some sort of space that you don't really want to be in. And it's very uncomfortable. It's almost like you have this shadow, secret side that's way over here that needs to be hidden, that's worthy of being kept a secret, that needs to be put in prison. So I read this quote from Janine Roth's wonderful book, Women, Food, and God. So grateful for Janine for all the writing and the teaching she's done over all these years. She's a major guide for me early on, 30 years ago. So here Janine says, diets are based on the unspoken fear that you are a madwoman, a food terrorist, a lunatic. Eventually you will destroy all that you love, and so you need to be stopped. The promise of a diet is not only that you will have a different body, it is that in having a different body, you will have a different life. If you hate yourself enough, you will love yourself. If you torture yourself enough, you will become a peaceful, relaxed human being. So, what a funny thing, right? If I keep this shameful part hidden and make sure that no one ever sees it, I will at least have some sense of safety. If I never, ever, ever share my secret, innermost thoughts about food and eating, this torturous experience or this unhappy experience, at least I'll be safe on a certain level. I once had a dear friend who spent some time in therapy and recovery around food and eating issues. And when I asked her what she was learning and what kind of things she was talking about in her recovery group, she said, well, I don't, that's kind of personal. And this is somebody who was really quite close, I felt. And she didn't want to share. And it just struck me with how, even though she knew that I had my own history of an eating disorder and had entered a long-term recovery, many years now, of not feeling obsessed or worried or freaked out about food and eating and not having crazy, unbalanced eating, but still my compassion for somebody who feels that and who does that from time to time, or binges or overeats, or even just has that self-hating experience around their food and eating, I have great compassion for. Even if she knew that, there was something in her that felt really hesitant to actually share. So I want to share one interesting story that was my offer and my encouragement to expose you. Because living with a secret and holding something in, whether it's just your feelings or your eating or your desires or whatever it is that's in there that's being flattened because you think it's worthy of shame, is really, it's a hard place to be, and it takes a lot of control and work. So long ago, when I was in a therapy group myself, just a general, fabulous therapy group for people interested in personal growth, personal awareness, and understanding their own behaviors. There was no distinguishment in the group for people who had an eating disorder. In fact, I was the only person who had one. I am the only person. So it made it this actual perfect, it was perfect that no one else had experienced this extremity with food and eating. Binging, purging, starving, getting up at 5:30 in the morning and running for miles, being a competitive athlete. Nobody had done that quite in the same way I had. And that was so good to be in a group for me like that and actually needing to share. Because one of the principles of the group was that to hold yourself accountable to not hurting yourself or harming yourself. And I was doing that. And I had to bring that to the group and say, you know what? When I'm out there in the world and I'm not coming into this group, I'm hurting myself because I'm binge eating. Gasp. And I mean, I'm jesting now, but I felt like they would kick me out of the group. You know, are you kidding me? You're out. That was the feeling inside, even though I intellectually knew that wasn't going to happen. To become exposed and then actually admit that with the help of the amazing therapist I had, who I'm so grateful for still, to have that come out and notice that people didn't run for their lives with shock and horror, and that I was still welcome and even asked to return, and that this was even to admit my humanness and to be a normal, regular human being in some ways, but maybe even taking some of this behavior irregularly, like that wasn't so regular, to be actually binging like crazy and running like crazy and forcing myself to vomit. But it wasn't unheard of, and there was other people experiencing such pain, and the addictive process is very common. It doesn't matter if it's around food or eating, but smoking, drugs and alcohol, shopping, surfing the internet now these days, all kinds of things to escape and to hide and kind of cover up something that you feel like is unacceptable within. So using self-inquiry, one of the things I would like to just share today is, number one, tell the truth, expose yourself, be honest, risk sharing with somebody who you know cares about you a lot, and maybe who has had the same kind of experience. Doing it with a therapist or a guided group is remarkable. Writing things down, sharing them in that particular way, finding someone where you don't feel like you are hiding so much is an enormous step, a bigger step than you can ever imagine. Not keeping yourself sort of safe and bound in this secretive zone is really, really powerful. And number two, just experiencing what it would be like if you can use your own imagination. What would it be like if you were not shunned, you were not rejected, and you were not eternally damned and deserving punishment, to have this experience of craving, wanting, compulsion? What if that was okay and that was a part of being a human being, that lived in you, that lives in you now? What would it be like if you don't deserve condemnation for that and you don't actually need to be ashamed of it? So just imagining that experience can be incredibly freeing. So let me know how it goes. Let me know if you can find a place to begin to admit or open up to what your experiences have been, even if it's just to yourself in writing in a journal. All right. Lots of peace to everybody. Take good care. Everything is just right the way it is. I promise. Happy healing. Bye-bye.